Oh, this is a very seismic moment in the investigation into ties between the Trump campaign and the Russians during 2016, Andrea. We've known for a long while that Roger Stone was a target of investigation by Robert Mueller, the special prosecutor. Roger Stone, in essence, Donald Trump's kind of political fixer, a man with a long history of playing dirty tricks in American politics. But the indictment does not just allege what we all had already surmised, that Roger Stone had played a critical role in communicating with WikiLeaks and with Julian Assange, the WikiLeaks founder, holed up in the Ecuadorian embassy in London, about the documentation that Russian hackers had managed to acquire from Democratic Party computer servers during the 2016 campaign. The indictment absolutely connects the dots between Roger Stone and senior officials within the Trump campaign, and says that senior officials within the Trump campaign, unnamed in the indictment, unidentified, were in contact with Roger Stone, asking him to find out from Julian Assange in the Ecuadorian embassy in London what information the Russians had on Hillary Clinton and when they were planning to release that information. So, if you read this indictment, it ought no longer be possible for Donald Trump and his supporters to say that the Robert Mueller probe has found no evidence of collusion in the 2016 election campaign, because this indictment is bringing together the Trump campaign, Roger Stone, WikiLeaks and the Russians, and drawing a very clear picture of the chain of communication that went on between all of them. High drama in Fort Lauderdale just over an hour ago. The FBI descending on Roger Stone's home at 6 o'clock in the morning, taking him by surprise, knocking on the door, shouting and telling him to open the door immediately. He will make a court appearance in Florida in a few hours' time. He is facing the prospect of a lengthy jail term where he'd be convicted of all the charges that he faces, but also, much more seriously for President Trump, questions now will stack up here in Washington, there at the White House, for what level of communication Donald Trump may have had with Roger Stone and what he knew about the conversations that Roger Stone was having with Julian Assange.
It's fascinating. I mean, and Trump's ultimate defense has always kind of been here. They are not me. I don't care if they're my advisors. I don't care how close we may have been at some point. I didn't do any of this. But how long can that go on for? Is it really sustainable with the American people, and will his supporters continue to buy it? Or can the Mueller investigation pull off what it ultimately set out to do and prove his complicity in this collusion with Russia?
Well, I mean, look, it's worth making the point, Andrea, that we've seen opinion poll data just this week that shows Donald Trump's disapproval rating hitting a record high. That's not just tied, of course, to the Mueller investigation and the progress it's making, but also to the government shutdown that is underway. A government shutdown, by the way, that has been affecting the FBI, although apparently didn't prevent FBI agents in Fort Lauderdale from making an early start this morning and descending on Roger Stone's door. You are absolutely right. Traditionally, on a day like today, Donald Trump would say, I never really knew Roger Stone that well. I didn't have that much to do with him. I think that's going to be a very, very difficult position for the White House to attempt to strike, especially on this particular day, because in a few hours' time, the president's former campaign manager, someone he definitely knew very well, Paul Manafort, will be back in court here in Washington. His lawyers trying to explain why Paul Manafort did not lie, as the FBI claims, to investigators even after he struck a plea agreement with the special prosecutor Robert Mueller. President Trump may choose to try and say, look, I never had any direct communications with Roger Stone, but given that the indictment that was published here within the last hour shows that Robert Mueller and his team have been grinding away at this for months. They have all sorts of documentation. They have all sorts of evidence. The best thing Donald Trump could do today would be to say absolutely nothing, because he can't possibly know what Robert Mueller knows about what went on behind the scenes. So this is a president And we've said this time and again, but this is a president who once again is swimming in very grave, treacherous legal waters.